everyone, and welcome to your horoscope for the week of August the 19th till 25th, 2024. Oh my goodness, what a week we have before us. And from a different perspective, finally we have arrived to the point of no return, symbolically speaking, where from this point onward, there are going to be a lot of surprises and a lot of perhaps unexpected twists and turn of events, both in collectively speaking, without a doubt, but also in our individual lives. Now, even though I do say this week, because it from an astral perspective, energetic perspective, it is a massive week. It is perhaps one of the highlights of 2024, even though we had very many similarly intense and important, even more important, and karmic events playing out. April, March, May, all of them had something very, very big. But in August, this is definitely one of the highlights. Why? Because so very much from so very many directions is happening at the same time, coming together. Some of these energies are without a doubt frictions. So one side symbolically clashes with the other side, and usually I would say not in a aggressive or turbulent way, but in this case I can't even say it, because just look at the world stage. Wars are raging everywhere. External wars or wars within a country, within a place, within a even community, it doesn't really, they are there. So unfortunately, that can also be one of the expressions. So as I said, different types of energies, some of which may be total opposites to each other. For example, Jupiter and Saturn, they work together, of course. They they are, how should I say, mutually uh, tied to each other's existence, because the divine mechanism cannot work without any, yet their nature is the opposite of one another, even though they have to work together. And this is one of those moments when each planet comes with their its own terms and conditions, so to speak, and a final version of the agreement, negotiation, etc., has to be reached. Of course, symbolically speaking, but each and every one of our Jupiter and Saturn is also at the negotiation table, if you know what I mean. Now, you might say, well, this isn't my natal Saturn, this isn't my natal Jupiter. Well, it doesn't really matter, because whatever your natal Saturn and your natal Jupiter means for you, does for you, is for you, how you use it, how you integrated it into your being, well, that's the relationship you are going to have it, both Jupiter and Saturn, regardless of where they transit. But the transit, of course, always makes you refine the relationship you have with the inner Jupiter and inner Saturn, of course. So where whatever they transit, that's the nature of the refinement, of the discovery, what you're challenged to do or challenged not to do, depending on the situation. But this is where Jupiter and Saturn, even within you, this week are sitting at the negotiation table. And perhaps what the final, as I said, agreement will look like, be like, we don't know yet. Because individually speaking, even though this energy is a powerhouse, it doesn't mean that it is this week when everything is done and dusted. This week is just a portal. After we reach the other side, like a maelstrom, a wormhole, if you will, it sucks us in, but we still need to land on the other side somewhere. Or the maelstrom, it sucks us in, but it also throws us out somewhere. So yes, that's the so we can't say that we make it through this week and that's it. No, because for some of us, this just starts something energetically, and where this throws us out, well, remains to be seen. When? Well, one partially at the end of Mercury retrograde, so the 28th of August, but Mercury still needs to go forward on its shadow path, so it goes into well into September, the middle of September. So then we can expect a bit of clarity, and that clarity to be applicable, so we can use it in a very concrete, very applicable way. But then there are other energies taking place in September. Then we reach yet the other eclipse season. So, and then December is also very big. So, as I said, this is just a portal. Even though the energies are raging in a literal sense out there, if it's relatively quiet in your life, and this is just taking place internally, because externally it may be quiet, but I assure you that internally it won't. Things will definitely be stirred up within you, even if there is not an apparent cause. Things related to Saturn and Pisces, the past structure of your life, or that part of your life, the self, your psyche, what your ego, whatever, that is in a way permanent. How does that mix with certain plans, certain needs that you need to work your way around? Jupiter in Gemini, Mars in Gemini. How does your long-term or but structural principles and belief system adapt to the present circumstances, where things are going in the present moment in your life, but Gemini also in the world, basically everything taken into perspective. So this is basically like the big picture of the energy, the philosophy of the energy. This is what Saturn and Jupiter are discussing together. Saturn seeks things that do work on the long term, and in Pisces, that they resonate to your highest morality, principles, faith, belief, your individuality, your spirit. Uh, and Jupiter, on the other hand, seeks for whatever the agreement is to be adaptable, Gemini, to be able to, how should I say, go with the flow. So it cannot be something fixed and rigid. It has to be something that always adapts itself, upgrades itself, flows with the times rather than goes against it. But as I said, both of these energies are contradictory in nature. Saturn's rigidity, even if it's in the mutable sign of Pisces. Pisces corrodes certain parts of Saturn. It makes it more malleable. It makes it more, let's say, plastic than it usually is. But Saturn in itself is not very plastic. Don't imagine Saturn like I don't know. Um I'm trying to think of a metal much tougher than steel, but this is where perhaps my chemistry knowledge is lacking a little bit. But if I'm not mistaken, it's somewhere like tungsten or iridium or something extremely dense like these metals. So that's Saturn. It doesn't want to bend. But Jupiter in Gemini is perhaps the condition science and technology enabled conditions that can make even the hardest metals melt and bend, and we use them. So that process takes a lot of energy. You know what? So whatever, however this plays out in your life, it will consume a lot of energy. So it will tire you out. As I said, even if externally it's not there yet. And that makes sense because first in philosophy, thought, spirit, emotion, first internally and then externally. For some people, it will be the opposite. It will knock on the door externally as some kind of chaos or big awakening, big epiphany, big realization, big something. So it doesn't really matter which case, if it's externally stepping into your life or internally stepping outside to your physical life. It doesn't matter which case it is because it will still consume energy and it will still feel like a massive brainstorming. But when I say brainstorming, it will use every single processing unit of your being. So a bit of instinct, as in the gut, then a bit of heart, then a bit of the five senses, because it will ask you what real value is. And this is because Venus makes this T-square because she is at around 17 degree of the sign of Virgo. So that's a perfect square by the degree with Saturn, Jupiter, Venus. So this is really, really asking you to be maximally, if possible, honest with yourself and really give yourself the Venus most valuable feedback, even if that is hard, or even if there are certain things we might not feel comfortable looking at, answering, speaking out, perhaps, saying perhaps, because Venus is debilitated in Virgo. She's not her idealistic, romantic, all feeling, all just magic self as she would be in Pisces. She is her very analytical, hair splitting, moody Virgo self. So, as I said, if something makes us and understand this both individually, collectively as well, unhappy, that unhappiness is not going anywhere, and that unhappiness is sitting and not standing up anytime soon at the negotiation table because it wants to say its message. So whatever we deem as true sources of a certain unhappiness, well, this week that is sinking in and that is being very deeply acknowledged. But at the same time, Venus in Virgo is not just about the dirt. What makes us unhappy, what makes us uncomfortable, what makes us, you know. Venus is also about the value that we really need to grip on, that we must attach ourselves onto. regardless if that value is something principalistic or philosophical or something in thought, or if it's something much more concrete than that which is true value in our lives and is a permanent source of well-being, happiness, or something good and practical, that this energy will tell us to protect, keep safe, nurture. Why? Because she opposes Saturn. And that this is where she is very, very uncomfortable, because not only she is debilitated in Virgo, but Saturn is oppressing her. And Saturn in Pisces can represent where, well, Venus. You cannot choose comfort if that means abandoning your most sacred principles. I'm sorry, you must choose suffering. This is, like a archetypal example of the energy, not that it's going to play out this way. But Venus has to come with her own truth. Okay, I accept, but these are my limits and my boundaries. I can accept sacrifice and to take on a certain kind of, let's say, pain for the for the sake of the holiness of my principles, but these are my limits. If it goes beyond my limit, it's not worth it anymore. So I'll throw out both the principle and the sacredness and anything. So this is how Saturn and Venus negotiate. And once they reach something, that, because the T-square is pointed at Jupiter, right? Jupiter in Gemini. That is sufficiently logical, rational Gemini. Sufficiently not radical. Why? Because the downside and the shadowy expression of Gemini is the duality to extremes. That's radicalism in one way or another, even if one can oscillate between the two extremes. That's not balanced, that's extreme, that's crazy. So this involves that there is a certain kind of balance. This involves that there is a certain kind of understanding and wisdom where whatever we are consulting our deepest truth in is not oscillating anymore between two extremes. There is an understanding there, which gives stability, which gives a certain kind of ration and logic to it. But then the Jupiter in Gemini also involves that, also requires that to be sufficiently down to earth so that it can actually make your life better in a real way. And Jupiter in Gemini also involves things not to be extreme in any way, shape, and form. Neither Venus in Virgo not to be extreme. What does this mean? Well, there are certain things that cannot be analyzed rationally, and that to be okay. Neither Saturn in Pisces not to be extreme. For example, and maybe this is a controversial example and I shouldn't say it, but it makes so much sense, so I'm still gonna say it. Well, you see, religion, Saturn and Pisces. Saturn, the rules and regulation in the sign of spirituality, Pisces, right? That can also take the shape and form of religion. But when religion, it has a part which is like total nonsense, not moral anymore, because we changed, right? We evolved, right? We don't need outdated principles anymore because we are mature enough to process liberty, right? The opposite of Saturn. Well, then we have to see the morality of it and abandon that which is extremely outdated and just limits the spirit. Even religion has to evolve. So that's an example. Jupiter asks neither Venus or Saturn to be in extremes. And then this T square can be a massive upgrade. Why? Because Mars is also involved. Here you see Mars with Jupiter. Mars gives the energy. Mars gives the immediacy, the quickness. If whatever we, and I will use this term, alchemize with this T square, right? When it reaches that stage or state where it is workable, where it is applicable, Mars can very quickly dish it out. Okay, the negative side of it. Mars, war and conflict, and in Gemini it's very extreme. Why? Well, Gemini is air that fuels it. But chances are it fuels it big time because it's a dual sign. So Mars burns really. And that means Mars is chaotic and very, very, very extreme. You know, when extremely hot gas burns, that is very extremely hot temperature that only exists in the cores of stars, for example. So what I'm saying, this can also be a bit extreme in the negative sense. Angry words, big disagreement, big informational conflict. On one hand, this can mean cyber attack and warfare and whatever. This can also mean basically war on via the internet, whatever that shape and form that may take. This can also mean something big revealed as a revelation that shocks everyone. Revelation, well, on one hand, that's Jupiter in Gemini, the extreme news. Mars, that it travels like wildfire. But this also takes place under a full moon. A full moon where the theme is awakening, revolution, rebellion, uprising, the travel of news big time. So these two big energies together really, you know what I'm, yeah, really make this very, very intense. But anyway, just going back, so let's leave the full moon out of this for now. Let's finish what Mars does. So Mars finds a great quickness here. Unfortunately, even in a bad sense. So conflict, war, boom, explosion. And energies simply, this is also an astral storm, an astral event which can be seen as almost like a calamity. Not that it is, but it's scary. It's big, it's wild, it's I'm not necessarily suggesting to try astral projection or outside of the body stuff, but however you perceive the astral, the ether, what's beyond the veil, your own unique way, just perceive what's there and you'll sense the storm, the energies everywhere. So you can imagine that will mirror somehow in our world as well. So of course the earthquakes, the volcanoes, the calamities, the all of that just mirrors the chaos. Chaos is going to be blooming right now. But I'll get to that in just a little bit. Because that can be doom and gloom for some, of course. But for others, it's the saving grace. But let's finish the T-square. I have to insist on this T-square because this is the moment when it's exact. The first round, of course, because this T-square will look totally differently. It's not the square, just not the T-square. Sorry, not the T-square, because Venus is not going to be part of it. The square between Jupiter and Saturn is going to look very, very differently in the next round, somewhere towards December, if I'm not mistaken, and the next year, going into next year. But that will be totally different energy, even if another milestone of the big theme. But the play out totally different. So this is very unique. We need to talk. And so, long story short, it can have very strong value ramifications. So, which means financial, economic, our physical body, what we invest in it, what we feed it in any way, shape, and form. This is when I am 1,000,000,000% sure that in the lives of some people, it will play out as a massive shock awakening that if I want my body to, I don't know, either be more harmonious or do this and that to not sabotage me or be more happier, the first and maybe the main thing I have to do is not poison it anymore. But that, in order for you not to poison it anymore, that may mean a radical life change where you move to a different place and this is where fate or karma, that Saturn, didn't really come through as a, I don't know what kind of business, career, soul level, grand spiritual kind of connection, but a simple realization that if I want to live harmoniously, I need to really not poison my body anymore. I need to take it in a place where it can be normal and natural. And you might not have even ever expected this. Let's say because of your lifestyle and whatever, but this dawns on you, and this may be a motivational force for you to make a big move, a big lifestyle change, a big modus vivendi change, even. Because modus vivendi is like your art of living. That's not just physical lifestyle, that's also your principles, your faith, your everything, social connections, friends. So for some people, this may be a huge awakening and motivational energy that, yep, the time is really here for me to Mars, gather all my strength and to make a move or prepare to make a move or an initiation or a change or to eliminate something and something, start something, depending on your specific, but the time is here. Internally speaking, especially Saturn time, right? Pisces, timelessness, total timelessness. But what happens when the two meet? The emotion means that the time is here, not something mathematical. It was always just a matter of emotion, but the emotion is there, the time is here. You know what I mean? For other people, yes, okay, a big career change. Because why? Again, Venus and Virgo. Time management has to add a great value, Venus, to my life, or I have to love it. Or it has to feel, Virgo, that it suits me and my needs, not just my modern human needs, but also the needs of my animal. Because I am a bit also an animal connected to nature. My energy center is connected to the Earth's core. So, you know what I mean. Venus will give many answers here, and also will Saturn. Let me give you another example, and I'm also sure this is another way it will play out in the lives of other people, some people. They come to the realization, Aquarius full moon, with this, right? A great epiphany or shock realization. I was conditioned, educated to live this modern lifestyle, but until this moment, because I can do it, I can even flow with it, but it's not. I finally realized that this is not who I am. I'm gonna either go to a rural place or go to farming, or you know what I mean. This is a massive awakening energy, but the natural part of us, the greatest natural part of us. Uh, so now that we understand each player in the C square, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, and Saturn, what they mean and what they ask of us, now we can go to the full moon. And I'm not gonna detail the full moon so much because I have a separate video where I speak about it in greater detail, but it's another T square. Oh, okay, sorry. I just need to move this a bit forward. There, this will do. Because now we can truly see the T square. Moon, 27 degrees of Aquarius. Opposing this, the Sun at 27 degree of Leo, conjunct Mercury at 26 degree of Leo. Mercury retrograde, of course. There is yet another energy here, somewhere between them, Vesta, an asteroid, protector of the homestead, of the family, of women, of children, goddess of the sacred flame, sacred passion. And Vesta is a really, really big deal, not necessarily from an astrological perspective, but more like as a deity. Vesta is one of those deities who people found it nearly impossible to depict other than just a flame. You won't find her as depicted only in very, very few instances as a humanoid. She's always just a fire. So a primordial nurturing energy, the most primordial female. So she is sacred. She in Leo, the heart, and you get where I'm going, the sacred heart. So this means that this energy awakens that which is the most sacred and most primal and most true within our heart space, heart centers, heart everything, if you want. Okay, so we and the sun in home in Leo, Mercury, the mind, on fire. So this is already a massive awakening energy. And then the T square is completed by the full moon. So Aquarius's ruler, Uranus in Taurus, which means Venus is even more under the radar here, under pressure. Because why? She has to dish out the Taurian, because she is the ruler, right? She has to dish out what Uranus does. And she dishes out in a Virgo way, which means Mercury is also involved. Mercury has to come up with certain answers. So Mercury dishes out the information. And some of that information, Mercury, is in the heart of the sun. It is holding the Kazemi around that day. So it is going to be reborn. A big change of a perspective, a big awakening. And this also rearranges the past because it's retrograde, right? How we feel is going to be so different. And finally we get to the full moon. The moon, well, the moon in Aquarius is the feelings of the people. Uranus rebellion, Aquarius rebellion. Leo, if triggered, very rebellious. The way it's so simple. A male lion, he is lazy, as in tolerates a lot. But when he snaps, well, that's when you have to run. And this is where, even if it's his pride of lions, I do believe that's how you call the lion family. May it be from the lion cubs or the lionesses, where they like annoying him, biting his ear or tail or irritating him because it's fun. And it's fun. He roars and does gestures, but that's not serious, right? But when he gets up, actually, then everyone runs. You know what I mean? So that's Leo has his own rebellious side to it. Just that fixed sign. It takes Leo a lot to muster the energy investment that, but once he decides, run. Run, because it's better off that way. And this is kind of true for very many people with a lot of either Leo energy or very strong Leo sun. Even if the sun is alone in Leo, it can have a lot of trines, grand fire trine sun. So you get what I mean. A strong Leo sun. And Mercury combust. So Mercury will be very fiery at this full moon. And then Vesta. What does Vesta count? Well, let me give you a collective example. News reaches that some community somewhere is in grave danger and help is needed. And the grave danger is where Vesta, put it into context, you could be one of those people, an empathy. You can imagine that your heart is going to be on fire and you're going to either donate, send food, send clothes, go personally and get involved. A missing child search. You're going to, of course, immediately get off your behind and go and join the party or search or pray or whatever it is you can do. This is just an example where something sacred motivates us deeply, because we can be one of those people or one of those cases, or you get what I mean. So, but in a larger sense, collectively, peace talks are a must. Or if peace talks fail, bye-bye the leader. And bye-bye leader, and I'm truly not referring to anyone specific. I'm just speaking archetypally. When Mercury, as it went retrograde, and before it went retrograde even, held quincunxes with Neptune and Pluto. So like a yaw, the finger of God. Shortly after, well, leaders, and again, I'm not referring to one specific person, did make big moves. And it hit news. It went viral, regardless of what kind of leader. If you're speaking about president, big CEO, or big whatever, things happen to them, good and bad alike. I'm not even referring to any specific event. Well, on one hand, the sun this week will hold the same quincunx, and then Mercury later on in September, I do believe. So again, and a fixed star Regulus is there at the 29th degree of Leo. So Regulus is the star of kings, leaders, you get me. So expect big news, news that is not final. It will evolve all through September. But a full moon is many times a culmination. So this can be the result of an investigation, something big being revealed, something big that causes people to either rise up, revolt, or coup de grace, whatever. You know what I'm trying to mean. So it's gonna be very, 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 very tense. Then also expect some turbulence in the realest sense in aviation technology. Tumult. It's gonna be. I'm not even gonna. So let's move on, please. Another thing that is I find very important is that this Mercury and Sun and Vesta, of course, now we know that Vesta is there, is gonna hold a trine with the galactic center at 27 degree of Sagittarius. So, regardless of how things look like here down on Earth, what type of chaos, what type of how it plays out, even if it's scary, even if it's sad, even if it's overwhelming, it makes us feel powerless. There is a method behind the madness, the universe, the cosmic fiber, the divine intelligence, the great architect is rearranging things for a grander surprise. So let us try our very, very best to stay in sacred neutrality. And Jupiter in Gemini with Mars needs hope and optimism, even if it's hard. They just need it. Okay, so we must be our most grounded in faith type of selves. And another really good energy, and this later on, but I'll speak about it now. And when it gets exact, I'm just going to mention the date. Chiron will hold a trine with Mercury, retrograde, a healing energy. And this also represents that there is some kind of divine method, if you will, a hidden divine intent or plan or methodology within these chaotic energies that will actually get us to a much greater degree of healing and understanding why and how the self was wounded and injured. And at the same time, Venus, well, it squares Mars. Again, she is very, very, how should I say, under pressure, really. Especially that Mars and Venus, the couple, just like Jupiter and Saturn, hold their own relationship. They are a couple, totally different, and they do different things, but they are colleagues. For anything to manifest or anything to be viable publicly, collectively, they need to work together. Mars and Venus the same, but much more on individual level. Mars the divine masculine, Venus the divine feminine. Mars the action principle, Venus the passive attraction principle. They are colleagues. So again, this energy asks us to make a big adaptation, to brainstorm something out, to solve, Virgo, something through intelligence, our own unique personal knowledge, and our personal knowledge. And I really want this to sink into everyone, because this is so important. Because a lot of people are confused that I am going to this and that course and reading, but the specifics of these times, it's not written. No one knows. We, all of us together, even that person who you are reading, or even the person whose horoscope you're listening to, me and absolutely everyone else, every other astrologer, no one knows better than the other. So every being is a mini inventor who has to come up with their own unique way, take solution, vision, perception, logic, faith, whatever you want. Seek deep within. And if you do not find the answer deep within, then deep within is a gateway to the greater architect, then the divine. It will answer. It will download it, or metaphorize this however it suits you, but you have to invent it. And many times the sheer urgent dire need is the mother of all motivational forces. That is what gets us to the knowledge, to the know-how, to the invention, to the eureka, to the I'm going, I'm doing, I am many times. That's the key. I can do it, I am, or sometimes I'm not. I'm not the victim. I'm not as weak as I or someone else thinks. I'm not stupid. I'm not all that gullible anymore. So sometimes I am, sometimes I am not. But that's exactly the Venus and Mars square. The case where you are no longer the fool, no longer the slave, no longer the naive. So you can see how this energy stirs up the individual big time. So that means it will stir up the collective. Mercury trine Aries later on in the week. Aries is creational chaos. So again, let me explain to you this longer theory, but this is so very important. Chaos is usually a force humanity always feared because it is destructive, it is scary, it is unreliable, random. However, if chaos meets divine innocence, or if chaos meets a divine frequency, then it turns into benevolent chaos miracle. It creates things unimaginable. Chaos will no longer care if the laws of physics, or even if the whole integral structure of the universe bends it, if it's benevolent, if it's loving, it will still create it, it will still magic it. This is the big difference between the energy of Aries and Uranus, because Uranus is also chaos, but Uranus is empirical power. Even if it negates the structural rules of the universe, it will give the reason why and how. Aries, no. The reason for why and how is always love, or replace love with any other sacred emotion. And it can be even the negative ones. Because there is stuff like sacred jealousy, sacred anger, sacred hatred, not. There are certain emotions, of course, that cannot, they're anti-sacred. So But when they reach the anti-sacredness, they also bend and shape chaos just like the sacred does. But that is another story. Mercury trine Aries is exactly that. When something sacred and innocent wells up deep within us from the heart, and it bends chaos into something miraculous that will blow our minds. So this is when an emotion, regardless if it's courage, love, the desire to protect, to nurture, to something, or an anger, or anything reaches sacredness, well, it will conjure up a miracle, especially because there's a massive energetic storm everywhere. So that favors miracles as well. So again, doom and gloom and scary and war and all that but amongst that, it is up to us, those who have sufficient understanding, sufficient connection and trust with the divine, to channel the divine benevolence here down on earth. So this can also bring as many miracles as possible, if that even makes sense. So thank you for listening and having the patience to listen. But basically, this energy is everything that is going to happen next week, really. But still, to make this more diverse, let's move on and not speak about the highlight of the show anymore. On the 21st, Sun, anoretic Sun in Leo, again, tension, again, the self, the ego. This can be a very, very egoistic, self-centered, aggressive, arrogant energy. For example, certain prime ministers can show their true colors in a Freudian slip kind of way, but the population is Freud. You know what I mean? The slip happens, well, it will not go unnoticed. And Regulus, the sun on Regulus, this also promotes the greatest noble acts and gestures from leaders. So this is not just doom and gloom, but a rebellious energy. So, yep. And quincunx Pluto and Neptune, again a yod. What leader says or does what? And Mercury trine Aries. Big, big, big rebellious energy. Then moving on the 23rd, well, this is my soul sister's solar return day. So I would like to wish her a very, very happy and blessed and prosperous and magical and miraculous solar return. And thank you for keeping me alive, because she is keeping me alive in a realest way possible. So thank you so much for that. And besides Anka's birthday, well, this is when the sun enters into the sign of Virgo. The quincunx with Pluto, remember? So, again, news or something hits the world stage. And the sun in Virgo, very happy birthday season to all of the wonderful Virgo natives out there. Then on the 24th, and we already reached nearly the end of the week, we have Mercury sextile Mars. Now, I really, really, really love this energy, because this is a moment when whatever has happened at the beginning of the week, we are working with it. So this is really good for negotiation, communication, persuasion, business, creativity, playfulness, even romance, of course. Because Venus is slowly but surely getting into position to hold a trine with Uranus. Remember that Venus has to dish out a lot of the square energy. Well, this is the trine moment when finally she can dish out everything that she analyzed, that she discriminated in a good sense, that she used wisdom on. Not yet this week, but this is definitely one of the highlights when Venus can dish out. I know that Venus's square with Mars is still kind of operational, but the trine really rewards the authenticity, the truthfulness, the creativity, the getting out of our comfort zone, and every effort that we took into change. May it be an inner change, changing our value system, our deeply rooted beliefs and principles and values and stuff like that's very hard to change. This energy rewards us. And also Mars sextile Mercury, good decisions, good choices, listening to the heart, communicating. Erotic energy, why not? Flirt, big time flirt. And we can also say that Mercury sextiles Jupiter, strive for justice, optimism, laughter, lightheartedness. So, siesta, joy, fun. The moon on this day is in the sign of Taurus, where it loves being in. So, yeah. And we must not forget Mercury trine Chiron, the healing quality. And finally, on the 25th, well, this is where Mercury is already slowing down considerably, because Mercury will only retrograde back to 21 degree of Leo. So you can see that Mercury is not going to make any more relevant moves until it starts moving direct again. So this concludes this week's horoscope. As I said, even though these celestial conversations that I mentioned after are very powerful, relevant in their own right, still the two T squares are so powerful simultaneously that they're gonna steal the show in every way possible. So remember, it is our duty and responsibility this week to hold down enough sacredness, innocence, purity, passion, unconditional love in our own unique, specific way and situation, and however our own life and the divine within tasked us. And how did it task us? Where are we in the now? In this second, who are we? Where we are? And what do we have in our lives? Not just in a down-to-earth material way, but in any way. That's our task. That's our mission. Because we are here. Remember, we are going to be sucked in the maelstrom. We don't know where we'll land. But what we do know is who we are and who it is that we're going to be, regardless of where we land. So this is the point of no return. It is our duty to be the sacredness which will give chaos its benevolent form, its benevolent frequency, its benevolent expression. Because benevolent chaos is miracle, or when nature is very, very kind, or when nature uses her great intelligence to either create beauty or to make things interesting in an easy way. When nature wants to see more play, more fun, more joy, these things are not specific to human only. So this is where we're just one of many species. When nature wants to see play and fun, she needs the frequency of innocence and youth and Gemini. So thank you everyone for listening, and I'm wishing you a lot of strength, clarity, keeping your calm and cool as you best can, choosing how you respond and reply to any provocation, and everything that you need to stay in sacred neutrality. Thank you everyone. Until next time, bye for now.